Cindy McCain wants people to speak up when it comes to noticing and reporting human sex trafficking in Arizona. According to the Department of Justice, close to 300,000 youth are at risk of being prostituted each year in the country. McCain says large events like the Super Bowl could prove to be a breeding ground for this type of activity.
When the whistle blows on Sunday evening in Arizona, the focus will be Patriots and Seahawks. Few will see, hear, or care about what happens every year at such events, no matter where it's held. Those who make a small fortune at games such as this by trafficking in human beings. Let's welcome back to MidPoint. She's a veteran prosecutor who has spent years working in the field of sex trafficking. Published on the topic, Intimate Knowledge of the Criminals Who Ply This Trade in America and Around the World, Wendy Patrick joins us. Wendy, pleasure to talk to you again.
Thank you.
This is a very serious subject because when you look Arizona, going back even to the last time they had the Super Bowl there, they were talking about shutting down sex trafficking at the Super Bowl. Yet here we are again years later and we're still talking about this. How pervasive is this and how deep does this go into the criminal element?
Yeah, I'm glad you're covering this subject because human trafficking is one of these under the radar crimes that is very hard to document. Now, we are able to document it in a couple of different ways. And the McCain report you're referencing set out to do just that. What they did is they looked last year in the New York, New Jersey area. They looked at ads for sex and whether or not those ads spiked around the Super Bowl, and they found that it did. Interestingly, they compared it with Phoenix, which is where we're having it this year. Now, I know that there are naysayers there that say, well, you just can't prove it. But supply and demand there's enough anecdotal evidence for us to talk all day long about how human sex traffickers operate. Large events such as the Super Bowl always result in increased trafficking because it's just following the customer base, following the demand. That's why we devote as many resources as we do every year, regardless of where the Super Bowl is being held.
Isn't it fair to say, and you just used the word demand in there, but if the police and law enforcement are going to get down to this, they have to get to the demand for this because this vermin will travel wherever the demand is. So should they not, while they're also looking to stop the trafficking at its core, going after those who basically put millions of dollars into the pockets of these criminals?
You bet. That's their first priority. And I loved your use of terminology, vermin. That's what they're looking for. They want to look, it's bad enough that there is a demand, but they're looking for the suppliers, the traffickers, the ones that are profiting by exploiting these often very young girls around the time of large events like the Super Bowl. Conferences, there's lots of events like this, but you're absolutely right. That is ultimately who we want to target and who we want to put out of business. And law enforcement agencies have great partnership efforts designed to do just that by increasing patrol in and around the event itself.
Wendy, are the laws enough, and I mean by that, are the laws written well enough right now so that it gives police the ability to go in and try to break up these rings, or is there still more legislation that's needed?
There's always more legislation that's needed because the laws vary widely state to state. Some of the laws have a lot of teeth, a lot more as the years go by. There is so much legislation being proposed every year. And our hope is that that trend will continue so that we are able to have higher penalties for trafficking in all 50 states, not just a couple, but the couple that we do have those laws really are serving as models for the rest of the nation as we move forward in some great cooperative measures to try to stamp this out.
I don't want people to think that we're just picking on the Super Bowl here. I covered the Super Bowl for a lot of years, and I can tell you I saw this up close and personal and a lot of the criminality that was around events like this. Here's a story, though, out of Denver. 6 child sex trafficking victims have been rescued. 2 adults arrested in a sting in Denver. This was around the 2015 National Western Stock Show. This is a 16-day livestock show that draws hundreds of thousands of visitors to the city every year, began January the 10th and ended on Sunday. This is a stock show. These are animals here. This is almost like a fair, if you will, and we're still talking about prostitution and sex crimes here. This is not just a sport idea, is it? This is not just happening at sports events.
I'm glad you point that out because anywhere you have large volumes of people congregating is a place traffickers will travel and they will post their ads. Because sadly, people from all demographic backgrounds with all kinds of a variety of interests will buy sex. And they'll also buy other things like guns and drugs, which also tends to show a spike in activity around large events like this. So you've got all the different vices to be sold where you have events that people will form a customer base. So justifiably, as you point out, that's why we see all sorts of enhanced patrol surrounding large conferences and events, just like the one you described.
America loves its vices, but unfortunately, let's say it right out loud, this could be somebody's son and this could be somebody's daughter who has been missing and is being used for sex and then is discarded like a piece of trash. It is a dark thing indeed, and I'm glad we're bringing some light to it. And we're going to talk about this more in the next couple of months because it's a very good subject. Wendy Patrick, thanks so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care. There are some new numbers out on Obamacare. We have talked about it today. Some people say, don't worry about it. Perfect, working, everything's good. Others say, time for the Republicans to step up. Oh, yeah, and by the way, where's Hillary Clinton, Ben? Dick Morris joins us next, right here on MidPoint.